Time to talk some cricket. Well, the West Indies and England will be vying for a newly designed trophy when the three-match test series starts at the Sir Viv Richards Stadium in Antigua on Tuesday. The new trophy was unveiled on Sunday by the two men after whom it is named, Sir Viv Richards and Lord Ian Botham. The trophy has an ultra-modern design and consists of an upside-down cup based on a Georgian rummer, with the adjoining sphere being a cricket ball. One end is a rummer for drinking rum and the other a wine or ale goblet. The West Indies will be hoping to continue their impressive home run against England. The visitors have only secured one series win in the Caribbean in the past 50 years. Well, at Monday's pre-match press conference, the West Indies coach, Phil Simmons, spoke about key matchups that could help determine the outcome of the series.
I think one of the things that will play a part is how well the two all-rounders cancel out each other, as in Stokes and Jason. And the other part is how well the two captains bat, or how well the opposing team kind of restrict the opposing captain. So I think that's going to be two big factors in this.
Let's remind you of both squads going into the first test. Here's the Windies' 13-man squad, while England have already cut their squad to 12. So Craig Brathwaite as our captain, Jermaine Blackwood, and Nkrumah Bonner, Shamar Brooks, John Campbell, Joshua Da Silva, Jason Holder, Alzari Joseph, Kyle Mayers, Virasamy Permal, Kemar Roach, Jayden Seales, and Anderson Phillip. England, Joe Root is their captain, Johnny Bairstow, Zach Crawley, Ben Foakes, Dan Lawrence, Jack Leach, Alex Lees, Saqib Mahmood, Craig Overton, Ben Stokes, Chris Wokes, and Mark Wood. We're now joined by international cricket commentator Fazeer Mohammed to preview the series. Welcome, Faz.
Good to be on the show once again, Mariah.
Yeah, and good to actually go into a test series as slight favourites. How are we calling this one?
Yeah, I would say so, because normally you would think, well, okay, the West Indies will go into it as underdogs. I think many people, including myself, suggested that the West Indies were underdogs in 2019, and then we saw a victory by over 300 runs and then a 10-wicket win to reclaim what was then the Wisden Trophy that has now been retired in 2020 with England with their comeback series win in the midst of the pandemic in the UK. But now, with England having been decimated in the Ashes, they've dropped Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad. It's not the end of their careers. And there's a hint of maybe a suggestion of how shall I put it, arrogance here, where they feel that they could allow their two premier bowlers to miss this campaign because they are only playing the West Indies, although Joe Root made it very clear that that was not in his mind at all, and no one will actually admit that, because the fact is that, as we've talked about it very, very often, England have only won one test series over the last 54 years here in the Caribbean. The last time would have been 2004, and the last time before that, 1968. So I think the West Indies, if only for the fact that they are playing England, and they seem to be always supremely motivated, taking on England in the Caribbean, might just have the edge. But again, you're talking about two teams who have been losing more than winning. England 4-0 in the Ashes, and the West Indies have lost 5 of their last 6 test matches.
Yeah, Faz, and listening to Coach Phil Simmons very, very closely, he spoke about the all-rounders cancelling out each other. How much do you make of that?
That's an interesting perspective from Simmons, because when you look back again to 2019, Jason Holder, as captain, had an outstanding series. He had that double 100 famously on his home ground at Kensington Oval, and he really led from the front throughout that series, even though the West Indies lost the final. They had already clinched the series, and the West Indies were without some key players for that encounter. As far as Ben Stokes, he knows that he has a lot of ground to make up, and he's actually said so after the disappointments of the Ashes campaign and his own personal struggles for much of last year. He needs to get his focus back on the game and represent his team, fighting for his team. And he knows very well that he's been one of the few to miss out on runs in that 4-day match against the Cricket West Indies 11 just last week. So quite obviously, with so many key players missing, Ollie Robinson is also out for England apart from Broad and Anderson. So he might very well be required to do more bowling than would normally be been anticipated. So yeah, there's no question that Ben Stokes would appear to be at this stage the one carrying the greater burden of responsibility than Jason Holder.
Yeah, and if anyone dare to tell me, other than Jason Holder with the ball, I'd have to say Kemar Roach will definitely have to step up. And I'm drawing on the fact that in 2019, he had that fifer, and he seems to have the recipe to get through the England batsmen. What role will Kemar have to play, and how important is it that he gets those key wickets for the West Indies?
Well, if he does what he did the last time around when we had a start of a series, well, then it couldn't be any better. He had 5 for 17 and England were all out for 73. If that happens again, well, then all power to him and the West Indies. But if it doesn't, it's about continuing to do what he does best. He's very consistent. He doesn't have the raw pace that he used to have. He had a shoulder injury that really took away a lot of that pace some 5 years ago. He's fought his way back. He's shown tremendous levels of consistency and commitment. And he's got the wickets to show for it. Over 200 test match wickets. And he continues to be someone who's a thorn in the side of any opponent. And if there's any bit of assistance on that surface at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium, from what we hear, it's not going to be like the green top of 3 years ago when the West Indies won by 10 wickets on a seamless track. But it could be a situation where Kemar Roach will be required to perform those two roles. Strike bowler early on, and then that stop bowler if England do get partnerships built during the course of their innings.
Faz, and I want to jump on that last point that you made in regards to the pitch that's over there in Antigua. We have seen pictures, we see that it's straw-coloured, we get the impression that it's going to be slow. Does that make any sense in terms of advantage for West Indies?
Well, I found, in fact, I actually was happy with the pitches that were prepared up to that 2019 series. Because this idea of these flat, lifeless tracks just to drag the match out for 5 days and blunt the threat of the opposition was doing us no favours. Yeah. Because even if we appeared to be competitive on those lifeless surfaces, we were immediately sorted out whenever we went anywhere and there were bouncy pitches. And that happens in South Africa, in England, in Australia, even India. You get pitches with a bit of pace and bounce. Now, New Zealand certainly as well. So I felt it was the right move to go the way of a pitch which is not overly seamer-friendly, but offers a bit for both batsman and bowler. And I think that's what they might be trying to do now. Maybe the last one, 2019, was a bit too much weight in favour of the bowlers of the West Indies. Were able to pull it out with the quality of the bowling. And Darren Bravo's battling half-century, that was probably his last really significant test innings. But now, if you've got a pitch that has a bit of something for everyone, then that's good. If it turns out to be a flat, lifeless, docile track, I don't think that's what you want for Test match cricket.
Of course, the captaincy, that battle between Brathwaite and Joe Root in particular. I mean, what are your impressions of how they'll go head to head? Because Root, of course, now is facing is in a position where the England team is basically just starting over, so to speak. It's a pretty young squad that he has.
And I'm sure you'll understand when England are coming after and coming out from an Ashes licking. Yeah. It's almost as if their world has just ended, because that's all that matters to them, the Ashes, which is why people feel a bit slighted, quite correctly in some cases, with the attitude of England when they take on the West Indies or the so-called lesser test playing nations, because they see them as just mere preparation for the next Ashes campaign. As for your specific question, Joe Root under the microscope, not so much for the bat, because he was one of the few to take the responsibility in those 5 test matches in Australia. But his captaincy, whether or not the fact that Anderson brought on there gives him more leeway to really assert himself, because the feeling has always been that he can only do what Broad and Anderson will allow him to do because of their success and their seniority. So yes, he will be under the microscope as a leader more than for his batting, because that has been proven. As for Brathwaite, I don't think Brathwaite cares what anybody says about him, because he's that phlegmatic individual who plays his game a particular way, who knows the limitations of his own game with the bat. As a leader, he's still feeling his way. A year ago, he was celebrating that famous series in Bangladesh with those 2 test match victories, and then he was placed as captain, and as we subsequently learned, much to the disappointment of Jason Holder. So he has to lift the West Indies, as I said. 5 test match defeats out of 6 over the last 6 months. The exception was the 1-wicket victory over Pakistan at Sabina Park. So it could easily have been 6 of 6. So he has his work cut out as captain as well.
I guess you can look at the middle order of both teams and wonder which one of them will come out on top. Of course, West Indies would have changed that middle order. We don't have the likes of Sheikh Hope anymore. So how are you seeing that battle? And I'm suspecting that there may be a few low scores in this series.
It might be a battle of the mediocre, as harsh as it might sound. But at the end of the day, it's really up to these players to respond, because again, they've been given an opportunity.
Yeah.
England's batting seems almost as poor as the West Indies. They were pathetic in the Ashes campaign. And now it's up to like a John Campbell getting an opportunity, not so much because he's been banging down the door. Yes, he got 100 against Barbados just a couple of weeks ago, but it's because of the mediocrity all around. So he has to step up and show that he really wants a test match place. Those in the middle order, Shamar Brooks, Jermaine Blackwood, even though he's vice captain and has taken on tremendous responsibility and has played with that increasing level of maturity, they know that it can all come to naught if they are routed by the English pretty early on day one or at some point during the course of the test match. And the West Indies do have that vulnerability. We've seen that over and over again. Ditto for England. So you're right. If the bowlers are really on song, it could be 3 days for 3 consecutive test matches.
Yeah, Faz, well, thank you so much for your input. We're looking forward to see if the Windies can keep up that record that we have, if they can defend it. And we'll chat again soon.
Sure, take care.
All right, Fazeer Mohammed there, our international cricket commentator. Always enjoy his insights. So, Donald, how does this one turn out?
I have no idea.
For real?
But Faz described it so well. It really is a battle of the mediocre, and I guess a number of these players are trying to prove a point that they belong in here. And I'm interested to see how even some of our fast bowlers, how they perform in this setting, in this matchup. And I'm not sure if we'll be able to handle the tag of favourites well. Let's see if they're going to be able to do that, because that's pressure in and of itself that they haven't been used to, especially against an England team with a lot of backing, with a lot of support, although they are bottom of the test rankings right now. But no, obviously it's going to require some level of consistency from our boys in the 3 test series.
I think that, and I listened to an interview with Kemar Roach, basically they're drawing on the fact that England, they're missing a lot of their key players. Ollie Robinson now, it's a bit sad, but he's out because of back injury. They're missing a lot of their senior players. So I feel as if it's any chance that the Windies should capitalize on these key players missing, it's now.
I am surprised, though, that he actually brought it up. And it's good to see West Indies being put in that position to answer questions as to whether a team is in a favoured position or not. And it was impressive to hear Roach speaking about the fact that he believes that his team is favoured to win this series, especially with the fact that England dropped 2 of their most senior bowlers in recent times.
Yeah. All right, Donald. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, basketball time.